You can have anything you want if you want it badly enough. You can be anything you want to be, do anything you set out to accomplish if you hold to that desire with singleness of purpose.
He stands 5 feet 9 inches tall, weighing in at 145 pounds, 65.8 kilos, fighting out of Dublin, Ireland, the notorious Conor McGregor!
I'm gonna buy myself a car anyway, a nice car, and I don't know. Just last week I was collecting the social welfare, you know what I mean? Out into the UFC, I don't know what it, blah blah blah, but now I suppose I'm just gonna have to tell them to fuck off.
Unbelievable. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Damon! 60 G's, baby!
The notorious Conor McGregor!
Maybe, I don't know, the Irish people might understand more. A young boy dreaming of putting on the Irish jersey or dreaming of putting on his favourite football team's jersey and that crest and lifting that cup, you know, this is my crest. These gloves right here, these UFC gloves, you know. To be the first Irish man to put these on, to lace these up and get in and do the job. Honestly, no one can take that away from me, no matter what. Honestly, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I don't care about nothing else. I don't know about nothing else, you know what I mean? Don't even listen to it. If I start talking about something else, just don't listen, I'm talking shit. But if I talk about this, if I talk about unarmed combat, if I talk about the human anatomy, you know what I mean? The way the human body moves, then listen.
I'm a professional MMA fighter with a record of 4-1. I'm an up-and-coming fighter, and without a doubt, you will see me on the UFC in the near future.
Make a big difference.
He's waiting out here long for that.
Rain or shine, 24 hours a day.
And have it so that when you step, your leg is against his. It's not step to here. Here.
I want someone to be in the UFC, and everyone laughed at me saying, no one from Ireland goes to the UFC. And I said, well, you might be happy training someone to be the best in Dublin. I said, that's not my goal. My goal is to produce a UFC champion. Not a UFC fighter, a UFC champion. I don't care. I always saw as not only a possibility, but an inevitability that I was going to be at that level. We've arrived. People know. It's only getting started. Part sport, but it's also part entertainment. It's a case of finding the right balance between training and promotion, because you have to do both.
He comes down, gets me to flip a tyre that I never flip. I don't even flip a tyre. Now they say, you know, I'm on the front of the Daily Mail flipping tyres. This is the place where it happens. This is the place where the champions are made. And these kind of run-down places. When the door closes in the cage, it's not a strength and conditioning workout. It's not who can do the most pull-ups or who can do the most fucking squats. Like if I was to wake up in the morning, it's like, okay, you can either do strength and conditioning or you come down and do 10 rounds with someone. I'm gonna do the 10 rounds every time. It's great news that BT Sport have signed a deal. Get out of there, you as well. Look at this, trying to rat me out. It's great news that BT Sport have signed a deal with Satante for the UFC TV rights. It means Irish fans can watch me on 17th of August in Boston and every single one of my fights as I climb my way up the division and become the first Irish champion. It's a good one, that.
Connor? Yeah. You looking for me?
Yeah, what's body lotion?
Body lotion?
Yeah.
Like moisturiser?
Will I use that in the shower or after?
After.
This hat's me granddad's hat. I have it literally since I started combat sport. He died and left a few things, and one of the things he used to always wear was these hats. Look at this. Have it literally 10 years, I'd say, and it's been in every gear bag. I only just bought that bag over in Portugal, so transfer it over. I sometimes forget it's even in there, you know what I mean? But it's just been in every single bag that I've ever had for the past 10 years.
See, I wanted to see as well, like, what is expected of you? Because Fear the Fighter has.
It says it on the contract.
Did you read it?
I read how much I'm getting paid and a little bit.
Now, what I said to them is that if we're going to Canada on the 8th and then Vegas the following day, maybe stay in Vegas for a week.
Training?
Train for a week because it's a lot of travelling to do.
Fucking right. So we're going to Vegas now, yeah?
It's going to be like the Hangover Part 4.
I'll see you tomorrow, yeah?
Alright.
James, I'll see you tomorrow, yeah? I'm going to Vegas last minute. Canada and then Vegas. That's nuts. Training is the fun part, you know? You love training. Training's great. It's the diet that's hard. So you have 3 weeks before each fight, 3 fights a year. So that's nine weeks of the year that you have it tough. It's not a bad life if you think about it, you know what I mean?
Ease up. Stop. I don't know where he gets the talent from. There was no real great boxers or fighters in my family. Apart from McGregor, we were outlawed.
Pull my heart out of my chest, train my mind so I forget. Sink your teeth into my bones, dig me out, then fill the hole. Tear me apart. All that's left is a window to my soul. Come and get it.
He really tormented Liston, and finally Liston said, yeah, I'll fight him, it'll be easy money.
Everybody believed that Liston would annihilate this guy because he was all talk.
If Sonny Liston whoops me, I'll kiss his feet in the rain.
With a record of 36-1, Liston is a fearsome champion, a former mob enforcer with ties to organized crime.
He's frightening. Sonny was a guy who was meant to hurt people.
Sonny Liston was Godzilla. Sonny Liston was going to reign for 1,000 years.
Adding to the foreboding sense of drama was the presence of members of the controversial Nation of Islam.
Nation of Islam was an isolationist group. Elijah Muhammad wanted his own nation inside the United States. So it was scary.
For the past few years, Clay has been studying the tenets of the Nation of Islam, as espoused by its leader, Elijah Muhammad, who preaches that white people are devils created by an evil scientist. But Clay is drawn to the basic message of black empowerment.
It made him understand and promote, what is your history? What is your African history? Who are you? What is your name? Why do you have that name?
I'd never heard anything like I heard going to the meetings with Ali about you are somebody, a black man got as much right to live as any other man. For the first time in my life, as a grown man who had been a star, had sold millions of records, you start to feel like you are somebody. I can understand how he got hooked.
Clay is inspired by the nation's assertion of black pride, but the presence in his camp of the Nation of Islam's controversial Malcolm X threatens the Liston fight.
Malcolm X, I want to talk with you briefly about your affiliation with Cassius. How long have you known him? About 3 years.
Just months before, Malcolm X caused an uproar by suggesting that President Kennedy's assassination was a case of, quote, the chickens coming home to roost.
You did not say that you were glad the president was killed. No, that's what the press said.
The promoter fears that negative publicity will kill ticket sales, so Clay's camp gets Malcolm to leave Miami until the day of the fight. February 25, 1964. Boxing experts and fans agree that Liston will clobber the Louisville Lip.
They thought, well, even if it's going to be fast, it's going to be really ugly and bloody. Just what we fight fans want.
It was fast and it was bloody, but it was not what most fight fans expected.
The challenger from Louisville, Kentucky, Cassius Clay.
When the two men entered the ring, we suddenly realized that David was bigger than Goliath.
Another jarring right hand that time, folks. Another one. Sonny wobbles. Sonny wobbles. Cassius has him hurt.
Clay dominates Liston from the bell, dancing around the slower champion and opening a cut under his left eye. After 7 punishing rounds, Liston claims an injured shoulder and won't come out for round 8, making Cassius Clay the new heavyweight champ.
I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world.
There were a number of people who immediately said, oh, the fix was in.
Sonny Liston quit against Cassius Clay. He was just getting beaten up. He didn't like it. He was a bully and he couldn't take it.
After his stunning upset of Liston, Clay holds a press conference that would only amplify the shock factor.
Somebody said, are you a card-carrying member of the Black Muslims? And he blew up.
Clay confirms that he's a member of the Nation of Islam.
And he said, I don't have to be what you want me to be. I'm free to be who I want. This is about as revolutionary a statement as I've ever heard in sports.
Now the heavyweight boxing champion, Cassius Clay, is free to be himself.
No one could get their mind around the idea that this great kid from Louisville, raised by a Baptist mother, was suddenly announcing that he was a member of the Nation of Islam.
A few weeks later, public opinion of the new heavyweight champ goes from bad to worse.
Cassius Clay is a name no more, is that right?
Yes, sir. It's Muhammad Ali. Muhammad means worthy of all praises, and Ali means most high in the Asian African language.
This is the toughest guy on the planet. He turns his back on Christianity. He turns his back on his family's name. And it began the split between people who loved him and people who hated him.
My name is Muhammad. Y'all keep calling me Cassius. I'm tired of telling you. You know, you're intelligent. My name is Muhammad Ali, not Cassius.
Was anybody special gave you the name?
Yes, sir. My leading teacher, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Elijah Muhammad's influence is growing. Not only does he give Ali his new name, he introduces him to Sanji Roy, who becomes Ali's first wife in August of '64.
Muhammad Ali had 4 wives: Sanji, Kalila, Veronica, and now Lonnie. I found the first wife in a strange way maybe the most interesting. She was very firmly in love with him.
Their honeymoon is short-lived.
We no longer had Cassius Clay. We now had Muhammad Ali, who was a member of the Nation of Islam, which made him very unpopular. It was getting very hard to find a place where he could fight. Originally, the Liston rematch was set for Boston. Then Muhammad suffered a hernia. The fight was postponed. Boston washed its hands of it, and it finally wound up in Lewiston, Maine, which is one of the few places that would take it.
Then, 2 months before the rematch, Malcolm X, who had broken with Elijah Muhammad to embrace Orthodox Islam, is gunned down by members of the Nation of Islam on February 21st, 1965.
Muhammad Ali had broken from Malcolm and sided with Elijah Muhammad. So there was concern that Malcolm's followers might exact retribution against Ali.
The rumor had been spread that there was a carload of gunmen coming up from New York to kill Muhammad Ali in the ring.
Ali Liston, too, was a mess. It was a mess outside the ring, and it was a mess once the fight started.
Midway through round 1, Ali hits Liston with a blow that would become infamous as the Phantom Punch.
Did you see the punch? Did you see it? Was it the punch heard around the world? It wasn't even a punch seen around the world.
The punch was hard enough to knock Liston down, but he thought Liston could have gotten up.
It took about 8 seconds after 9 and 10 that the crowd began to chant, "Fix, fix, fix."
Ali's second disputed win over Liston does little to win over his boxing critics. He has other critics as well.
A certain portion of Black America loved him. Another portion of Black America did not love him. The Black community was divided. Those who thought integration was a great thing, and those who did not think of integration in that way, but thought of equal rights and our freedom, equality, and justice.
I'm not out there marching and going places I'm not wanted.
Those of us who were young, who understood our manhood, and who took pride in it, we were not asking to be a part of white America, but demanding our rights just like any other citizen.
Ali's support of the Nation of Islam's separatist policy alienates many in the civil rights movement, including Floyd Patterson, who turns his November '65 bout with Ali into a social, political, and religious battle.
He said a black Muslim has no place being heavyweight champion in America, and that he, as a Catholic, was going to bring the title back to this country.
Floyd was a nice man, but his approach was what we call an Uncle Tom approach, doing all the things that white America wanted you to do.
You ain't nothing but an Uncle Tom for white people. What's my name, Uncle Tom Negro? I'll jump on you now. What's my name?
When Muhammad Ali got him in the ring, he became pretty cruel in his beating of Floyd. He was really giving him a lesson, talking to him, hitting him and talking to him.
Ali would disable Patterson, then step back, admire his work, and then beat on him some more.
Ali beats Patterson by technical knockout. 2 months later, he sues his wife Sanji for divorce. She'd lost favor with her husband's increasingly influential Muslim inner circle.
They said it was because she wore makeup, she wore daring dresses. They didn't want her because they had already picked out Kalila, who was working in a Nation of Islam restaurant.
His brief marriage now over, so is his 6-year contract with the Louisville sponsoring group. Herbert Muhammad becomes Ali's manager.
Herbert Muhammad was the son of Elijah Muhammad, who Muhammad Ali counted as his spiritual father. Herbert was an extension of that.
Herbert Muhammad joins with pro football superstar Jim Brown and lawyer Bob Arum to form their own boxing promotion company, Main Bout.
What we said was, the heavyweight champion of the world is boxing, and we should control boxing.
But Main Bout can't control the U.S. Draft Board. Ali was rejected for service in '64 when he failed the written test. But the Vietnam War is escalating in February of '66, and the Army has lowered its standards. Weeks before his bout with Ernie Terrell in Chicago, Ali is notified that Uncle Sam wants him.
The fight was doing extraordinarily well when the U.S. government reclassified Muhammad Ali from 1Y and made him 1A, and a television reporter went to Ali, who was training in Miami, before anybody could reach him.
I just don't understand yet how I can be reclassified as 1A without testing me in no way, just calling me like this, and I just don't understand it.
In other words, you think they called you only because you're the heavyweight champion?
And a Muslim, too.
And that's when Ali said, I got nothing against the Viet Cong. They never called me the N-word. Everything hit the fan.
Ali declares that if he's drafted, he won't fight in Vietnam.
Ali put it in racial and religious terms that made him a hero to millions of people who thought that it was a bad war.
When he basically said, I ain't going, a lot of us were kind of like, yeah, baby, I ain't going either. I'm just trying to figure out another way of doing it so that I don't have to go to jail in the process.
Well, then you're not apologizing for the unpatriotic statements that you made.
That'll be taken up with the government.
Ali's unpopular stand causes Chicago politicians to scuttle the Terrell fight, leaving his management looking for another fight in a new venue.
We wanted to fight in Pittsburgh, and they ruled it out there, and then they tried Maine, but they didn't want us in Maine.
The growing controversy over his anti-draft stand makes Ali toxic in the U.S., forcing him to win his next 4 fights in Canada and Europe, where he's a bigger draw than ever. A point not lost on one Texas millionaire.
I got a call from this real character, Judge Roy Hoffheinz, who owned the Astrodome in Houston, and he said, "You bring that boy down here, nobody is going to tell him he can't fight here."
Ali knocks out Cleveland Williams before a record-setting indoor crowd. Smelling another box office bonanza, New York hosts Ali's next victory over Ernie Terrell. Ali is now 28-0 in the ring, and still 1A in the draft. In April of '67, he finally gets his draft notice and reports to the induction center in Houston to begin one of the longest, toughest fights of his life.
Former world heavyweight champion Cassius Clay refused to take the oath of induction into the Army. The black Muslim fighter, who is also known as Muhammad Ali, was immediately stripped of his title by the World Boxing Association.
When a guy says he's not going to fight for his country, that irritates a whole lot of people.
He moved from the sports pages to the front pages.
Within days, Ali is stripped of his license to box in all 50 states.
9 top Negro athletes meet with Cassius Clay to discuss his anti-draft stand.
Jim Brown and Bill Russell organized a summit meeting in Cleveland.
Clay's induction refusal cost him his title, and he faces a possible 5-year prison sentence.
The Army was willing to make a deal. They were willing to guarantee that he would go in special services and he would be able to box. Behind the scenes, Herbert Muhammad, as a businessman, looked upon that as a possible option.
The meeting started with them talking to Ali about accepting the deal.
You wouldn't have to worry about being a soldier as such. You can do public relations. But Ali's attitude was, nope, don't want a deal.
2 weeks later, Ali is convicted of draft evasion in federal court. Sentenced to 5 years in prison and banned from boxing for 3 years, he remains free while his case is appealed.
Whatever suffering or punishment I may have to take, it'll all be because of my religion.
He was unafraid of the political repercussions, unafraid of any cultural repercussions, unafraid of losing money.
He said he would probably fight again, but it was okay if he didn't. Long as he believed that he was the people's champ, that was good enough for him.
A month after his conviction, Ali marries 17-year-old Belinda Boyd with the approval of Nation of Islam leaders. She fully supports her husband's refusal to be drafted.
He said, "I can't kill anybody." I just said, "Trust me, you'll be the greatest man ever lived if you don't go."
Facing 5 years in prison and unable to fight while appealing his case, newlywed Ali needs to earn money, so he embarks on a college lecture tour.
I would like to hear this from you, and I want the world and the cameras to hear. Who's the heavyweight champion of the world?
The student audiences loved his opposition to the war in Vietnam, but they were very much opposed when he spoke to them against the idea of interracial dating, against the idea of living in the same community.
During those 3.5 years that he wasn't fighting, basically the only 2 things that he was doing was going on college campuses, and the other was being on television with Howard Cosell.
What do you say to that? I predict that the fans will be angry at the experts for misleading them so much.
I think that his relationship with Howard Cosell was critical to his acceptance by America.
Howard had the deepest respect for the champ. Howard many times privately defended Ali and Ali's right to express himself. and the right to feel the way he felt about where we were with civil rights at those times. But Howard also didn't take any punches. If he felt like Ali had overstepped his bounds, he would confront it. It was part of the chemistry of these guys. You had two gigantic egos.
After 3.5 years in exile, Ali remains free as his appeals proceed in federal court. And while politics cost Ali his boxing license, politics provides a chance to fight again. Georgia has no state boxing commission. Individual municipalities can sanction a fight. So Black State Senator Leroy Johnson strikes a deal with Atlanta's white mayor, Sam Massell.
Leroy Johnson said, I want this fight to happen. I carry a lot of votes with me.
Thus, Ali's comeback begins, surprisingly, in the Deep South.
Here's an African American reviled around America. Suddenly Atlanta is embracing him.
He said, I got my license. I'm gonna fight in Georgia. I'm gonna fight in Georgia. I said, in Georgia? I said, down south? He said, yeah. I said, oh Lord, we in trouble now.
Ali returns to the ring on October 26, 1970.
I don't believe that anybody is happier than this young man to once again step into the ring.
28-year-old Ali was stripped of his title, but he's never lost a fight, and Jerry Quarry is not considered competitive. Ali opens a cut over Quarry's eye in round 3, and the fight is stopped.
Inactivity is deadly for any fighter, and for Muhammad Ali to have come back and still display the incredible hand speed and fluidity that he showed was amazing.
While Ali's draft evasion appeal works its way up to the Supreme Court, the NAACP sues the New York State Athletic Commission in federal court, arguing that their ban on Ali is discriminatory. Their ban is lifted. Free to fight in New York again, Ali stops Oscar Bonavena at Madison Square Garden in December 1970.
It's over! Ali is the knockout winner!
Setting up a title shot against Joe Frazier for an unprecedented $5 million purse.
Now we have a chance to see who the real champion of the world is.
That was revolutionary. You know, $2.5 million apiece. Wow.
Back then, that was a vast sum of money.
Even Mickey Mantle was not making that much money.
Well, let Joe Frazier talk all he wants. We got a few miles to straighten all this mess up.
He brought people to the sport that didn't even necessarily follow boxing. They just liked Muhammad Ali.
I have fixed up the round that Joe Frazier will go down.
You got this person who's standing up and he's been stripped of his title. People wanted to see, who is this guy?
His fights meant more than just the sport of boxing. His fights were like a fight for justice.
Ali was carrying the weight of everything. I don't think it's possible to overstate how much Ali embodied the hopes, aspirations, beliefs of young people in general and young African Americans in particular.
Joe's gonna come out smoking and I ain't gonna be joking.
The bout is set for March 8, 1971. As the fight approaches, the battle between two unbeaten heavyweights becomes far more than a boxing match.
Get your hands off me.
If you were a liberal, you were rooting for Ali. If you were conservative, you were rooting for Joe.
It was a clash of cultures. There were the people who were demanding civil rights, who were against Vietnam, and the people who thought Vietnam was right. Then damn it, we're going to put our views in the ring and settle it once and for all. March 8, 71. The world flat out stopped.
The apartment that we lived in was going crazy for that fight.
We were glued to the radio.
I can still see Ali leaning back over the ropes, saying, no contest. Meanwhile, Frazier's pounding him, 20 times.
Ali absorbed an enormous amount of punishment, gave out an enormous amount of punishment.
Yeah, and when the 15th came and they said he'd been knocked down, it was like, this can't be.
Ali gets quickly to his feet, but the damage is done. Ali suffers his first loss It's Frazier by unanimous decision.
This can't have happened. This is impossible. It was impossible not because we didn't believe Joe Frazier could beat Muhammad Ali. It was impossible because his beating him meant they were right. And they couldn't be right. And the right-wing idiots